Happy Sunday, folks. Happy Sunday. No Browns game today. None. I'm assuming most of us are living stress-free lives, right? Right? We're not stressed today. We're relaxing. We're watching other fans get stressed because their teams lose in the playoffs in ways that are weird and frustrating. That's not us. That's the benefit of not being in the playoffs. So we got to think positive here, Browns fans. We got to think positive. Thanks for everybody tuning in and listening from wherever you are listening from. Please list below where you're listening from. Like, comment, subscribe, share the feed. Let people know I'm on the pod today talking about this wonderful coaching carousel. But before we talk who the Browns might hire, we need to talk about who they already have interviewed, right? That's a big topic of conversation. We'll get into that. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about Miles doing the all pro team. Uh, Again, he obviously all pro. The season that he had, you had to give it to him, right? You had no choice. The type of season he had. But yeah, this coaching carousel has been insane. You hear John Harbaugh's name, and then you see Clint Kubiak, who I was big on. I was pretty big on Clint Kubiak, and I thought it was odd that they weren't interviewing him. But then, as I do what I normally do and think typically like a Browns fan, right? I realized, well, Clint Kubiak and Kevin Stefanski are the same type of person as far as their offense, right? So why would the Browns head the regime bring in somebody who's kind of like Kevin when I think they kind of want to get away from that. And if you could tell, we kind of tell by the people they've been interviewing that they're looking for more, less old school offense, something more what do you call it? Fast, professional. No, I won't even call it professional, but something more updated. There you go. Updated is the better word for what I think the Browns are looking for. Um, one person we do know, it's not Jim Schwartz, right? It's not Jim Schwartz because the reports came out by Jay Glazer that the Browns are letting candidates know that Jim Schwartz is staying as defensive coordinator. How should we as fans feel about that? That they're bringing these people in and they're saying, listen, we want you to have this job. We want you to run this team, but there's a but. We're going to keep Jim Schwartz the defensive coordinator. I mean, how would you feel about it if you go in for a dream job of yours and all your life you've been waiting for your moment to shine, and you've in your mind you've have a list of people that you worked with throughout you years in your life, buddies, pals, comrades that you've been holding hands with your whole career, and you say to yourself, well, once I get a head coaching job, I think I'm going to hire Bob as my defensive coordinator and Jim as my office assistant, or this or that or that or this. And in the mind of this coach who wants to be a coach, in your mind you're thinking this is going to be my dream team. But when you come into this interview, they're like, yeah, that's cool and all, but the defensive coordinator, he's not to be touched. Not to be touched at all. How would you feel about that? Not that I'm saying that is the wrong decision or a right one. I'm asking, like, if you are a coach who has his own vision and own plan of how you always wanted your dream to be like, of being a coach in the NFL, and you have no ties to Schwartz, like, it's cool. You like what he's done on paper. He's a great person. You've seen what he's done in Philly. You're winning a Super Bowl, and you go through his whole resume. We're going to go do that, and you see this resume, and you think, yeah, it's good, but I promised John that, you'll be my DC. And how does that look like from a relational standpoint, right? Like, how can you bring this guy in a room and say you're going to match up with this guy? And how would you feel if this guy who's had 3 years of success building a culture on the defense, which has been pretty good, outside of 2024. We're getting into more of that later. And they're saying you have to match up with this dude. And he already has an edge up on you because his culture has already been built for the last 3 years. So now you're playing catch up. You're less talented, and now you have to incorporate a system which is new because you're going to be the OC. Most likely, he's going to be an OC. I know it's up in the air right now who they're going to get, but I'm going to go on that minds of it's going to be an offensive guy because obviously if they locked in their defensive guy, why would they get another defensive guy? Because the defense guy is not going to come in here, right? I'm talking this out with you guys, so help me out. Mike says keep Schwartz no matter what. That's why you get a head coach that's on the offensive mind. See, Mike's on the same page. Guys had 3 top defenses in the league. Browns would get rid of him. Browns wouldn't get rid. I'm not saying it's the wrong decision. I'm just saying, as a fan, it's not a wrong decision. I'm speaking as somebody who wants to come in and print their own imprint on this team. Will Jim Schwartz be the thing to stall or to bring worry or to bring hesitation? That's all I'm saying. Because Jim Schwartz, he's obviously, if you ask every fan who you want, they say, well, give me Jim. And it makes sense in a way because if you're keeping him as your defensive coordinator and you're telling teams he's not touched, then why not just make him your coach? And maybe that's what they're going to do. Maybe they're just getting fillers out there. Maybe we don't know. Maybe they're just saying, hey, maybe if we keep him as a head coach and coach the defensive side, who can we pair him up with the offensive side? We don't know. We'll see. And that's what's fun about this being a Browns fan. Every day, it's something different. Let's first, before we start talking about who we're going to pick and who's going to be this next guy that's going to come in and change his team, I think we need to hear from Barry himself, the guy in which they're looking for. Listen to this.
And mention, we all get evaluated. Yeah, we understand where you are. And I mentioned, we all get evaluated on an annual basis. I think the reality is in any head coach opening, every organization has their own challenges, their own constraints. There may be at different points with their roster's lifestyle. We'll be looking for something different than maybe some of the other openings have based on, where they are as a team. And some good coaches will fit us, but they won't fit the Titans. Some will fit the Giants, and they won't necessarily fit us. But we're looking for the right leader and the right partner for our present situation. And I have a lot of confidence that we'll be able to find that person.
He said that the guy we're looking for may be different than a typical average team. And I think as a Browns fan, you need to understand that I personally think they have somebody in mind. They have not somebody as a person, but an ideal image in which this coach is. I want you to imagine a coach who's just a shadow man with some Browns outfit on. He's got a Browns gear on. He's got a hat on. He's got the headset on. He's got this pants on and shoes. And he's just his image, his shadow image. And I think they have this persona in which they want. They said it. They want a guy with a high IQ, EQ. They started laying down a personality trait in which they want their coach to be, kind of like Ben Johnson yesterday, right? Ben Johnson, one that came from behind and showed some type of excitement, emotion. He wasn't monotone. He wasn't and the team clearly enjoys that. So is that somebody that they're thinking that this team needs? And obviously, I think the defense has a lot to speak for me, especially if it's a Jim Schwartz situation. You have to listen to that defense. Especially Myles Garrett. That defense doesn't want you to get rid of the very thing that put them into a position to succeed, to get the numbers that they get. Because the numbers matter to those players. Don't get it confused because there's bonuses involved here. But let's look at this list so far. Okay, the official interview list. Tommy Rees, Jim Schwartz, Dan Pitcher, Aden Durde, and Todd Monken. Those are the people they officially interviewed. They scheduled an interview with Mike McDaniels, and there's Jesse Meter, Mike, I think his name's Schoolby. Yeah, it's Schoolby, and John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh is an interesting character. John Harbaugh, there's a lot of rumors floating around there. Let's stop right there for a second. John Harbaugh supposedly wants a lot of money, $20 million starting, and he wants $10 million to his staff, his coaching staff, and he wants basically full control. Name is GM. He wants player personnel control. That's what supposedly is out there. Could be rumors, could be fake. And John Harbaugh already said, supposedly, according to some reports, he's watching Jackson Dart and Cam Ward tape. Nothing about Shador. Not to sit there and say he doesn't like Shador. Now your argument is, well, maybe he scouted him when he was at Baltimore and he likes him. Well, maybe he scouted the other people and they like him a little more. So hearing that report kind of makes me maybe, and he said he's only taken 3 to 4 interviews. The other people he's just going to exile. So it's going to be interesting this week to see where John Harbaugh kind of goes with his interviews. If he stops in Cleveland, if not, after his third or fourth, we're not even in the running. Now Mike McDaniel gets scheduled next week for an interview, and he's an intriguing person because he was with the regime when Jimmy Haslam was here, when Kyle Shanahan was here during the Mike Pettit year, where they had Johnny Manziel, and my reports are coming out now. It was a book on Mike Silver's book. He put it out there on X saying that Kyle Shanahan forced Mike Daniels to do a 23-page report of how he needs to get away from this team because the way the organization is. Interesting. Now they're going to bring him back from it. And he's interesting from this perspective. I know a lot of people don't like him, but I'm kind of interested in Mike McDaniels. I think he did good things with Miami. I think since Tua had a concussion, there have been some struggles there. But Mike McDaniels is appealing to me. And I know I'm kind of going against the grain there. I think that he'll bring in a different type of a kind of different offense that's going to be fast. Offense that's going to require some, maybe you work out and work your way in as far as throwing, opposite of Kevin. And I know there's some similarities there as far as how they run the ball, but I think the passing game separates them too. Todd Monken, he's what? Old? 40? Something? 60? Something year. I said 40. I'm 40. I mean, I don't know if they're going to get Durde. I mean, they already have their DC, so why would they want him? Pitcher, I'm about to get into here in a minute because he intrigues me too. Tommy Rees, he's young. Are they going to roll the dice on Tommy Rees and hopes that he learns on the job? Jim Schwartz, he's committed to him being the defensive coordinator. Jason Meter, I mean, Ram, I don't know. I mean, he's defense. This Nick Schoolby, I mean, he's a passing game coordinator for the Rams. Now, what's intriguing about him, he works with one of the best, McVay. You see what they did yesterday. They're able to throw the ball, score points in a hurry. He's part of that. He's the passing game coordinator. Maybe they're going to bring him in for a promotion somehow. I don't know. But all these names are everything that we're seeing here. It seems like it's, for me, it's going to be somebody that's not a big name outside of Mike McDaniels. I think Mike McDaniels is priority, if not John Harbaugh. They know they can't get John. I think Mike McDaniels is their guy because he's been in the there's a relationship there. Though he probably wrote a broke-up letter that offended Jimmy Haslam, but I think they can get over that, right? You've ever gotten broken up before, and then the love of your life comes back into your life, who's appealing and beautiful, and you're like, hey, I forgive you. Let's make up, right? I mean, it can happen. I wouldn't shut the door on Mike McDaniel just because he wrote a broke-up letter about this organization's dysfunction, because it was dysfunctional. It kind of still is. But, if there's an opportunity for Mike McDaniel to coach right away, it might be here. Or he can just say, you know what, I think I'm going to wait it out and be an OC somewhere else. That's the beautiful part of this. It's waiting, and waiting. More interviews to come next week of this coaching carousel. Who's going to come in? Who's the favorite? I know Kubiak already said, I'm not interviewing anymore in Browns, so we're even on that list. And he was a favorite to get it, according to Vegas. Now he's gone. He's not even not even interested. Crazy. So Jim Schwartz. Let's talk about Jim Schwartz. Why would they be interested in keeping Jim Schwartz as a defensive coordinator only and not make him a head coach? So, but right now, the reports are saying not a head coach. That could change. Maybe they interview some people and they say, you know what, we're not going to get anybody better than Schwartz. So let's just try him out. And I know a lot of people are like, well, Jim's coaching in Detroit is he was what, 29-52, 2009 to 2003. He had 29 wins, 52 losses, one playoff appearance in 2011. He went 10-6 that year, wild card round. His accomplishments are Tennessee Titans Super Bowl appearance, 2 AFC championship games, 3 division titles. Philadelphia won the Super Bowl with his defense, and he's led the Browns to top ranked defenses outside of 2024, and he won assistant coach of the year in 2023. I mean, he has a resume that makes you wonder, like, why was he never coach again after Detroit? We've seen worse coaches get other jobs, like Pat Shurmur, right? Pat Shurmur was here, and then right after that, I think he went to the Giants. And that was like a huge surprise. People were like, what the heck are you hiring him for? He did nothing in Cleveland. It kind of like, it's weird because it parallels Kevin right now. Kevin leaves Cleveland, gets fired, and gets interviewed with New York with the Giants. Now, they say that, they're looking at John in New York, but there could be a possibility where he does exactly what Shurmur did and goes to New York and coaches. Hopefully he does it better than Shurmur did. Shurmur did not do too well. Shurmur's an offensive coordinator now in Buffalo, I believe, in Colorado. But you would see that resume and you would think like, wow, why isn't he even offered a job ever since leaving the Lions in 2013? He hasn't coached in 12 years. And that's my pause. Is like, he hasn't coached in 12 years. Why? Why hasn't he coached? Like, where's there something someone sees, something someone feels like there's something going on with them? But overall here, he's been great this year. This year specifically, I think is the best year statistically that he had. He was 4th in yards allowed. His overall ranking this year, 4th in total yards per game, 283 yards per game, 3rd in the passing yards allowed with 167. But here's the thing to his game that we don't talk about. He was top in overall, like, total yards per game, 4th, 3rd in passing allowed. But the rushing game, teams were able to rush on us. And maybe that's what brings pause to the Browns organization to fully going all in, because they saw that that's something that he struggled for 3 years, is stopping the run game. If you look at his statistics, every measure of his stats, the run game was the weakest. He was 16th in rushing yards with 116 yards per game. He allowed 116 yards per game on the ground. Only 15 explosive plays allowed this year. That's 4th lowest in the league, which is good. Because, typically if the explosive plays comes out the pass. So if your passing is high, meaning low, meaning if you don't allow a lot of passing yards, technically that number is going to be low also. On defense, they only allowed 4.8 yards, which is down from last year's 5.6 yards per play. So there's improvement. Overall, the 3 years of dominance from 2023 to this year, he's first here. First in total yards per game with 298. The only defense averaging under 300 yards a game over this span is his. Under 300 yards over this span for 3 years has been Jim Schwartz defense. First in opponents' first downs, which is 16. First in third down percentage, which is 33%. First in fourth down percentage, which is 41%. First in tackles for loss, which we've seen a lot of them this year. Tackles for loss. Miles led the league in tackles for loss. Speaking of Miles, he got all-pro team this year. All-pro from Myles Garrett. Can we give him a round of applause? Myles Garrett tore it up this year. He obviously led the league in sacks with 23, broke the record. Tackles for loss, I think another 33. I think 39 was the record, so he was even close to that. His pass rush win rate was the best in the league. Well, top 5, sorry. Um, all pro. Yeah, he was solid all year. And Miles loves Jim because I believe he and Ward attributes to Jim's style for that. But what you're saying to me, when you tell other candidates that Jim Schwartz is priority, no one's touching him. You're telling me the defense is as important as the guy that's going to run the team. So you're saying Jim Schwartz is going to be as important as your head coach. And will that bring any intimidation factor to the guy that wants to come in and take over this team? Are you going to get a guy who doesn't care like Kevin about credit? We lose as a team. We got to play better. And how will that guy keep Jim accountable? What does that look like? Jim's like, I've been here for 3 years. I've dominated outside of every year, size maybe 1 year. Like, what is that? What is that? Why are you stepping up to me like this? Right? Like, how does that look like? How does that power dynamic look like? And that's why it's so confusing. Like, part of the issue with me with this team is that the power dynamic is always odd. They always do something weird. Like you hire a coach and then the GM. And then you fire the coach, keep the GM, even though the GM's the one that gave you the talent for the coach to be not successful with. And then you say, well, the GM had 1 good year, so we're going to keep him around. And then we're going to give him the power to find the next head coach. And by the way, not only him, and this is why it's intriguing as a Browns fan. Like, I believe Barry has a couple guys that he likes, but the issue is going to be if Harbaugh is available, will Jimmy blow this whole thing up? If John Harbaugh gets an interview, sits in the room with Jimmy Haslam and say, here are my demands, is he going to say, well, Barry, he wants full control and I'm going to have to give it to him. I'm sorry. Or is he going to stick to his word? Or is he going to sit there and say, listen, I committed to Barry. He had 1 good draft, technically, and a good offseason of free agents, and we're going to just stick with him. Right? That's just that's my take. Like, what is that going to, like, you have that power structure in which is just off. Now, I think there's a possibility, if you do things right, that the power structure can balance out from GM, but they always use this term collaborative. And you're like, what does that even look like? Like, who makes the final say? It can't always be collaborative. Just can't. Can't be collaborative. Because eventually someone's going to have to make the decision. Like, someone made a decision on Deshaun Watson to pay him. Was that collective? Was that collaborative? I'm sure somebody said, well, that's kind of crazy giving him all that money guaranteed. What happens if he gets hurt? I'm sure there's a voice in the room saying something. That dynamic is weird. To think Schwartz is going to be safe this year, and the guy that comes in is going to have to speed up the growth of the offense. And that's why Barry said, reassured the guy. I'm sure they're going to reassure the guy because he said in his press conference, we're going to focus on this offense. We're going to build this offense. This offense is priority. It's about time. I hope to God, Barry, that you can find the receiver that you haven't found in 6 years. I hope you can find the offensive lineman that you haven't found in 6 years. Because right now, and the quarterback, by the way, we haven't found since Baker left. Because Baker was a pretty decent quarterback. He's sub 500, but hey, he probably would have won some games here that we've lost, and we probably would feel better about ourselves as fans. And the organization. What's that on my mind? What is the next what is the next coaching candidates stand out? What to stand out, okay, for me? Let's get to this next point. One in particular. But 2, obviously McDaniel stands out because now that he's getting the interview, you have to kind of like, all right, he has some head coaching experience. Maybe he seems like the type of guy that wouldn't care that he actually has a good defense coordinator. It's one less thing he has to worry about. It's already, the culture's already set. He can come in and be like, all right, this is the type of offense I want to run. This is the pieces that I need. Can I work with Shador for a year or so? Maybe blossom, grow him a little bit? Maybe. But The coach, the person that I'm very interested in, and it's probably a outlier. I've been reading. It's not really an outlier. There's people who are in the know, in the game, in the NFL world that are aware of this guy. The guy that I like has connections with Andrew Berry, Dan Pitcher. Dan Pitcher, the offensive coordinator from the Cincinnati Bengals. Reports are saying that he is a serious candidate for the job. Why? Well, there's a decade-old relationship with Andrew Berry. Decade. It goes all the way back to Indianapolis. All the way back to where he and Andrew Berry first gets hired in Indianapolis. Scouting. Yes, that's what it is. Scouting. He was a scouter. Andrew Berry was the lead scouter in Indy. There's a relationship being built. And through that, Dan Pitcher works up his ranks from scouting to passing game coordinator, kind of like the guy they're interviewing this week in Indy. And then he gets his job in Cincinnati to where he's a passing game coordinator. And then once the opportunity comes up, he's an OC. Offensive coordinator the last 2 years. And he has done pretty good things in Cincinnati. Now, if you want to credit him for these good things, okay? If you want to credit him, they met in 2012 in Indianapolis, transitioning from the Peyton Manning era to the Andrew Luck. Their front office, they were young pro scouting coordinators. Andrew Berry was in the building. His reputation was one of the highest and brightest minds in personnel evaluation. That same year, Berry hires Dan Pitcher to become his assistant, and they grow together until 2015, 16, where he goes off to Cincinnati and helps their offense out. And then the opportunity 2 years ago comes up, and he becomes the offensive coordinator. Now, the things that he's done there in Cincinnati, I guess you can, I don't know if you can contribute him 100%. Because, I mean, they have talent. They have T. Higgins. They have Chase. And obviously they have Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is top-notch, one of the good quarterbacks of this time. Now, Dan Pitcher's a good communicator, high IQ. When you hear him speak, you can hear some emotion in his voice. It's not monotone. There's no how did I say this? No boringness, no Bill Belichick or even Kevin Stefanski in him. He to me is what I think Andrew Berry wants, not just because of the relationship, because of what he has done in Cincinnati the last couple of years statistically. Statistically with them have been great. The run game, it obviously was better this year because they actually got a running back. The offensive line struggles, kind of like it is now. So Andrew Berry is seeing what's happening in Cincy with the offensive line struggles, and Joe Burrow still putting up numbers. And you have to count the OC to help out, because even Joe Burrow put his name on him and said that he wouldn't be where he is with his career. He wouldn't be where he is in his career without the help of Pitcher. And if you talk to any Cincinnati reporter, they would tell you that Pitcher is special. That there's something good about him. It's not just saying that he's riding off the coach's coattails, because to be honest with you, Taylor's about to lose his job here in a couple of years or a year or so. Maybe it's one of those moves where they want to keep him because they know they're going to let this guy go eventually, and he's a nice up-and-comer. So I would watch out for Pitcher. To me, my early on favorite, and I told the guys this in the chat and our text, that I think Pitcher is probably one of those dark horses that when he's hired, people are going to be like, what the heck? Because Andrew Berry says, we're going to pick the guy that where we're at, not where the league is at, but where we're at as an organization. And where you're at as an organization is that you suck on offense. You're the worst. The last 2 years, dead last or 31st on offense. He's credited for the so what's the fit and not fit for him, right? We'll close with this. The fit, the pros, right? Pros. Strong offensive track record in his first season as the offensive coordinator in 2024. Pitcher helped Cincinnati lead the NFL in passing yards per game with 272 yards, while ranking 6th in scoring, which is 27 points per game. That is, can you imagine scoring 27 points per game? I mean, I know we did that last couple of times. I think last couple of games, we scored in 20s at least. But like to be consistently scoring 27 points a game, that means you're gonna have to score 30 or 40 a couple of times. So pitchers it's intriguing to me. Not only because of the connection, because of what he's put together over there in 2 years. 5th in the red zone percentage, touchdowns. 5th. That's pretty high. The Bengals set a team record with 472 points scored, demonstrating his ability to maximize his offensive talent. And that's another thing we have to understand. I mean, you have 2 personalities who can be 2 number 1 receivers, and he's handling Higgins and Chase with just greatness because they both can demand the ball, but he has the ability to communicate to the guys the importance of sharing, and winning is more important. Elite quarterback development experience. Joe Burrow set single season team records for completions, passing yards, touchdown passes, and passer rating under pitchers coaching. Offense coordinator helps coach the quarterback. He is some credit to his development. Now that's key here, right? Because what has happened here since 99? No development. No development. No development at all at quarterback. And Dan Pitcher has helped develop Joe Burrow to the point where I told you he's quote saying, "Our relationship is as good as it gets. I wouldn't be the player I am today without him." He stamped his name on Pitcher. Now, I'm not saying Pitcher's ready. I'm just saying, like, Dan in the comments says, I don't know if Pitcher's ready right now. I think he's a couple years away. He believe it or not, I thought the same thing, but according to these reports, it's there's a lot of people are surprised that he didn't get any interviews last year. Now, typically what happens is you get an interview or two, and then you become a serious contender. But listen to what Barry said, though. Barry said, we're going to do things our way. We're not going to do where other teams are doing different things. So I can see Pitcher coming in and understanding where they're at offensively, and they show that they see his ability and invest in it maybe a year and give him a year or two to kind of be like, all right, develop these guys. Because to be honest with you, they're not sure if they have a quarterback. They don't. That's the issue. So they need somebody on offense to develop a quarterback. Whether it's help Watson get out of his funk or help Shador be what most fans think he can be, or maybe by any chance help Dylan grow 6-7 inches and be better. Either way, Pitcher has done it in Cincinnati with the help of development of the one Joe Burrow. Here's another pro. Dual perspective of scouting and coaching. That is an attractive piece to Pitcher that most teamers are going to like. He has the ability to scout offensive talent. Pitcher was also a quarterback in Division III and put up some pretty good numbers there. So he has the ability to understand and to think like a quarterback. He has the ability to communicate to a quarterback like a quarterback. And that's important, especially from somebody who needs to develop an offense in which you've had none for the last 2 years. I would even say 2.5 years, because that Joe Flacco year was just a fluke. He's a proven leader and communicating skills. Former coach Jeff Caldwell, who took the Colts to the Super Bowl, described Pitcher as having the combination of being bright and passionate and hardworking with his leadership skills. Passionate is the key word in there. Passion is an emotion that we felt that Kevin didn't have. Pitcher does. Now, I'm talking about Pitcher as if he's the for sure guy. I don't even know he is, but I'm just saying, like, this guy is interesting to me for these these purposes, for these reasons, and these reasons alone probably are why I'm interested in him. Now, here are the cons. He has zero, obviously. At age 38, he has zero head coaching experience. Pitcher has never been a head coach at any level. He jumped from the front for the first time from obviously front office scouting, slowly into coaching, and then OC for the first time, and then he's going to go from OC to head coach within 3 years. That's a leap. That is a huge, tall task to ask somebody to do. Next one. And I think he might be fitting for this because it's a massive quarterback situation. It's a challenge. The Browns still owe Deshaun Watson $46 million in salary next season with an $80.7 million cap hit. The owner, Jim Haslam, called Watson the big swing and a miss. Watson hasn't played since 2023-24. And rookie Shedeur Sanders is iffy at best. We don't know. Dylan Gabriel struggled too. There's no quarterback at all on this roster that that the organization feels comfortable going into next year saying that they won. And can a quarterback coach, somebody who's coaches quarterbacks consistently, help with this situation? But it's a challenge because no one has done it. No one's done it consistently at all since we've come back. Division rival concerns. Because he was in Cincinnati, they know his tendencies. They know how he coaches, what he says. They know some game plans, et cetera, et cetera. That's a concern. The bottom line, I understand that pitcher is a high risk, high reward hire. But everything I've read about pitcher says that he has intelligence, his leadership, and his offensive smartness to potentially, all that can have him potentially be an excellent head coach. And I personally think that is where the Browns are going to have to land. The Browns are not, my opinion, it could happen. So there's always something that can happen, right? There's no guarantees. But these big names like John, there's no other names, Mike McDaniel, everything else, like, why would Jesse Meter come into the situation in which he already has a defensive coordinator? Nate, that's a young guy who hasn't really coached. He's not an offensive coordinator. He never moved up in the ranks. That's as a big leap as pitcher. Durde, another good defensive guy. Why? Todd Monken, he's old. He's older. Like, are they going to look for somebody older now or instead of transitioning to somebody younger who can grow into this team's young talented core? Tommy Rees, we saw his offense already. I mean, it was somewhat better than Kevin's, but nothing like that stood out. But then again, can you blame Andrew Berry's lack of talent that he's drafted over the years? This coaching candidate isn't what we would assume to be exciting. It's outside of John Harbaugh, right? We're like excited about this move, but then we might not even get an interview. He might not even come into Berea. So what we're going to do as Browns fans, if he denies any access to us talking to him, this is who we're left with. Now, there's a couple guys that they can flirt with, the guys that came out of the playoffs today. The OC from Jacksonville, I heard that they're interested in him. Outside of that, I don't know who else you can get. This is my biggest worry about moving on from Kevin. Is that people say, well, Kevin's not good enough. Kevin's not good enough. He isn't good enough. Which the stats, everything proves to be true. You're right. But is the next guy going to be any better? We thought he was going to have this coaching pool in which we can be 100% sure on, but yet here we are, not sure. Not sure. Like, what happens if they get Durde? We're not sure how he's going to turn out. And I know that's part of the game. As a team, as an organization in which the Browns are, the guy that you're going to go after is going to probably be an unproven guy, just like Kevin was. And he'll probably have a good year because it's a weak weak year next year as far as the schedule, and we're going to be excited. But year 2 comes. Are we going to be patient? Are we going to let them learn? Or are we going to be quick to sit there and hit the panic button and say, let's move on? That's the Browns way, man. We've seen it enough to know what the Browns do and how the Browns go. It's going to be an interesting week. I guess they got a couple more interviews lined up. I'll be interested to see what happens with McDaniels. That's the guy I really have my eye on because I really feel that that's the guy that they would love to have. Would love to have. He's established. He's had coaching experience. He's smart, analytical, even though most fans hate that. But we'll see. We'll see. Thank you guys for tuning in today. Thank you for commenting and responding to my theory of who I think the next Brown coach can possibly be, even though most of you guys probably never even heard of him. But listen, Dan Pitcher might be an opportunity. Of all the lists, like that's the guy that's intriguing to me. And outside Mac McDaniels with the news that dropped yesterday. Like who else on that list would you want to see? Jesse Meter? I mean, you got again, like the defensive coordinator locked in kind of, I think, and I could be wrong, kind of limits your opportunity of who you're gonna get. It just puts a damper on if you can go out there and what if Mike McDaniels comes in and says, well, no, I respect what he has done, but I got my own guy. I'm assuming the Browns have a plan. They run the numbers. They're analytical, right? They know the pros and cons of everyone that they've interviewing. They're purposeful. They seen, but don't be surprised if the next. I know a lot of people out there saying John Gruden, Flores, like all these guys with big personalities. That's not going to happen, man. It's just not. I don't expect it to happen. That's why I'm surprised that if John was to come in as an opportunity for the Browns to get him, it would be a surprise to me because he's a big personality. And the last thing you want as Andrew Berry is to have a guy who's a more say than you when you just got the keys to the car. It's your car to drive now. It's your road trip. You're gonna drive, and this is Andrew Berry's job that he's always wanted his whole life. He wanted to be a GM. He wanted to run his own team, and he has the opportunity to do that. And I just can't see the Browns disrupting that for the sake of somebody with high demands, especially with Jimmy Haslam gave the keys over to who's that coach from Seattle? He came in. Dang it, his name just skipped my mind. Skip my mind. They gave the keys to the car to this guy and was like, "Hey, you're gonna run this team." And he did it. Man, what is the Seattle? I'm gonna look it up because that's gonna bother me. Seattle's coach is Seattle Mike Holmgren. That's it. They gave the keys to Mike Holmgren. They said, "Run the team the way you want," and it was a disaster. Are you going to give the keys to the car of somebody like John, who's never had this much power, and say, "I trust you"? When you already have Andrew Berry, you know the way he works, you know his work ethic, you have a relationship with him. You were glowing about him a couple of weeks ago or a week or so ago in the press conference saying how great he did. And then you're going to take that away from him? I just can't see it. Now call me a negative fan, but I just can't see that happening. And on top of that, you're going to tell John that this guy's your defensive coordinator? Personally, I think the Browns already know that John is not out of their realm, out of their reach. So that's why they put that report out there. Somehow that report dropped that, hey, Schwartz is the guy on defense, no one else. Somehow that got out. The Browns are pretty good at keeping stuff in-house. That report was not dropped on purpose. It's letting anyone know who wants or interested in this job, if they are, don't bring your defensive guy because we had it locked down for you. All I'm saying is Browns fans don't expect a big name. And if a guy like Pitcher comes along and is your head coach, there could be something there. There could be something. I think that Andrew Berry's doing his all in his power to make sure he gets this right. Because if not, guess what? It falls on him. And then people will be like, well, he was right. Look at Kevin. He's over there in New York winning games. Or Baltimore. Or wherever he's going to be, Tennessee. But we won't find out any of this, in my opinion, until John decides where he's going to go. Once John Harbaugh picks where he's going to go, the dominoes will fall. And we're probably going to be last because we're going to be interviewing these backup coaches or passing game coordinators. And they're going to narrow down on which one they want. We'll see. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Appreciate the love, the comments, the shares. I will be here next week, most likely the same time, hopefully. Until next time. Oh, Happy New Year, by the way. Happy New Year. I forgot to open up with Happy New Year. First new year of the podcast. The Land Media Group, part of that group. We're going to do some amazing things with that Land Media Group over there. Bearded Browns podcast, the Crunch podcast, which is following after me at 7 o'clock. It's the Crunch podcast. Let's Go Crunch podcast with my dude Ethan. Mike is producing that, and it's going to be a great show. So tune in at 7 o'clock on Let's Go Crunch on YouTube. And if you're a soccer fan, it was great. They had their home game yesterday. Mike was able to go there and get some behind-the-scenes snippets that's going to be dropping on that YouTube, that Facebook page, YouTube page. So follow us there. But someone just commented about John. How is John so highly sought after? He's been below average coach for 13 years, wasted 2 number 1 seeds. That is a question that most Browns fans are not asking themselves. And which is why I don't think this organization who runs the numbers can say, well, you've had one of the best running quarterbacks in the league. And you have not won one thing with him. Just saying. I'll sign off with that. Until next time, like always, go Browns.